live. Welcome to the 10th COVID313 Community Coalition for Families and Students Town Hall. I'm Christine Bell, mother of 3 awesome children, honored to serve as the Executive Director of UNI, proud member of COVID313 Community Coalition for Families and Students, and co-moderator for today's Town Hall. Is anyone else getting a little antsy or wishing that we could just go back to normal, but at the same time feeling scared and uncertain about what normal even is? You're not alone. So we have experts today that will share with us what normal can look like to ensure our families are safe and remain healthy during this time. They will also explain why we must stay vigilant in this time. We also know that this has been a difficult time for all of us, but some of our brothers and sisters, they have lost so much, and their struggle is one of survival. That is why we have guests today that will provide important information about housing, trauma, and provide techniques to de-escalate situations when we are struggling the most. We are also going to have a little fun today because really we just need it. We're going to get started in a few minutes. We are translating the town hall to Spanish, Arabic, and ASL. So we want to give people time to get on the right line and get comfortable. Cindy, please share the phone number for Spanish translation.
Si necesita traducción en español, por favor hable al 313-626-7440, 313-626-7440.
Said, please share the phone number for Arabic translation.
إن كنت بحاجة للترجمة إلى اللغة العربية، الرجاء الاتصال على الرقم 313-241-7030. الرقم مجددا 313-241-7030 وشكرا.
Thank you, Said. Julie, please share the instructions for ASL.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Christine. My name is Jametta Lilly, and I am honored to serve as the CEO of the Detroit Parent Network. I'm a proud Detroiter, I'm a mom, and I have been dubbed Queen Nana by awesome grandchildren. I'm also proud to stand up and say, yes, I'm one of those women from Michigan. The COVID Community Coalition for Families and Youth is comprised of community and faith-based organizations, educational systems, foundations, Detroit Public TV, and advocates just like you, that we not only care about and provide services to families, we are change agents, and we are committed to bringing you facts, resources, and support. And through this unprecedented time in our living history, as we cope with the impact and the uncertainties of COVID. So every week we are here with you, bringing facts, because facts are knowledge and knowledge is power. And in speaking of facts and knowledge, the weather, it's breaking. And while the weather is breaking, let's be clear, we have not broken COVID. So it's important that while we are getting excited about getting outside and being in public places or seeing our family members that we've only been able to see through Zoom over the past 8 weeks, please, please stay safe and vigilant. Know the facts. The facts, COVID has hit Michigan hard. In less than 3 months, over 52,000 Michiganders have fallen ill from it, and over 5,000 people have lost their lives to this disease. Tens of thousands in our state have been impacted by this disease. And just think, let us hit pause and just think that this cycle could repeat itself if we are not diligent. In Detroit, we have lost so many of our elders, our parents, our grandparents, our granduncles and aunties. We've also lost awesome community leaders who are at the height of their career. And we've also lost youth who had all the zeal of their age and appeared healthy. We're also experiencing and learning that there are new ways that COVID is impacting our children, and we don't yet fully understand that. So all the numbers that I just gave, these are people. And like you, we're people, and our lives matter. The sick, and yes, the dead, are not just statistics or merely the price that we must pay to get our economy going again, as some would suggest. People that are healthy, educated, loving, caring, powerful people creating an equitable and just society are the engine that will make our city and our nation rebound. These are the facts. So we're going to be here with you every single week to continue to bring you facts and to work through this new normal. And so in addition to working through this new normal, we're going to continue to make sure that you have information and connected to resources. So get ready to hear some great experts in education, in health and basic needs. And we'll hope you'll be ready for some yoga moves at the end of our program. So yes, let's enjoy the sunshine outside, and let's be excited that we have a vacation weekend coming up. But let's remember, COVID is not on vacation. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Christine, our awesome parent leaders and our experts who are keeping us informed, supporting us, loving on us, and keeping us powerful and connected. Christine.
Thank you, Jametta. Stay informed and powerful. This is also a time for you to ask experts your questions and to have a little fun. So to ask your questions, please use the chat on Facebook or text your questions to 313 228. That number is 312. We will have question and answers after each segment. If we can't get your question answered today, we are committed to getting the answers to you by early next week. All the questions asked today will be posted with answers on onedetroitpbs.org. Cindy, please share the Spanish translation number for folks that have just arrived.
Si necesita traducción en español, por favor, hable al 313-626-7440, 313-626-7440.
Thank you, Cindy. Said, please share the Arabic translation, the number for Arabic translation.
إن كنت بحاجة للترجمة إلى اللغة العربية الرجاء الاتصال على الرقم 313-241-7030 313-241-7030. Thank you.
Thank you, Said. Julie, please share the instructions for ASL for folks that have just arrived. Thank you, Julie. And to kick us off today, please welcome Nkenge Browner, Director of Organizing with Mothering Justice. Nkenge?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nkenge Browner. I'm the mother of 2 DPS students, and I'm also the Organizing Director at Mothering Justice. Mothering Justice is committed to economic justice for mamas of color. This week, we start a new cohort of MamaVis. MamaVis engage and mobilize our communities to vote, fill out the census, and create the mama agenda that guides our policy work. This year, in response to COVID-19, we specifically reached out to mamas who are experiencing layoff, who face housing insecurity, and mamas who are returning citizens, centering their voices, appreciating their lived experiences, and offering a stipend during this health and financial crisis. Our organizing team is working to connect expecting mamas to sliding scale cost doulas, providing porch drop-offs for education packets and baby items, We are working with child care providers to develop policy that will protect them as essential workers and working to implement paid sick leave policy that will protect all working families in Michigan for times like this and in all times. Stay in touch with Mothering Justice or join us in our work. Keep up with our policy work at motheringjustice.org. And now I'll pass it to another mama on the team, Cindy.
Hi, everyone. I am Cindy Gamboa. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Welcome to week 10. Like you guys know, I've said it before, I am honored to be a mom of 3 amazing kids. I am also the organizing director at Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation. And before I go ahead and turn it over to our experts, and right now that I have the floor, I wanted to give you guys a quick little reminder of one small thing, but very important action that you guys all can take right now. Yep, you probably guessed it. I am talking about the census. So the census is important, y'all. We need to step it up. It happens every 10 years. This count only happens every 10 years, and it should take you about 10 minutes or less, but it's going to impact our city and all of us for the next 10 years. It's going to help us allocate resources in the area of education, healthcare, food assistance, and emergency services. And to be honest, right now, that's what we're realizing is the safety net that's keeping us all together. So please, do it for our entire community. It's really critical. Now, I know you guys have to keep up the good work. The census rates are slowly going up in some neighborhoods, and I can't be more excited for that, but we still have a long ways to go. Right now, it looks like our completion rate for the city of Detroit is only at 45.8%. So what that means is that less than half of all Detroiters have been counted. And that's not good enough, guys. We need all Detroiters to be counted. We need everyone to count so that we're getting the resources to the cities that we need. We also want to make sure that we get the political representation that we deserve. So this count is very critical. Do it for our community. Do it for yourself, for your kids. This is not you giving it. It's not for politicians. This is actually something that you can do to fight for your own community, because we need every dollar that we can get. And it's pretty easy. All you have to do is, if you want to do it online, you go to my2020census.gov, fill it out on there, or you can call a toll-free number at 844-330-2020. That way you can just talk to someone over the phone and complete it that way. None of those methods work for you, then you can just go ahead and fill out the paper form that you received in the mail, send it back through mail, and there you go. Your family's counted. So, if you already did it, thank you so much. But the job's not over. Call your family, call your friends, neighbors, ask them if they completed the census. Talk to them about the importance of the census and making sure that that's one job you can do right now, making sure that we're all counted. It's more important now than ever that we're counted, that we're united. We at COVID313 Coalition are here for you. We're going to continue to be here for you. That is why we have this space, so that we can give you important information, but we know that we still need critical resources to lift us up in these times of need. So I'm gonna go ahead and share a quick video with you guys that my dear friend Gabriela Santiago Romero sent to me that really brightened my day. Let's go ahead and watch this.
I wish you bluebirds in the spring, to give your heart a song to sing. and must fall. When snowflakes fall, I wish you love. When snowflakes fall, I wish you love.
Oh my God, my heart. Wasn't that adorable? I wish you all love. I hope that brought a smile to your face, just like it did to me. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all that you do for your family, for your community, for everything that you do. So yeah, so if you're watching us right now, as you guys stay with us, we have an amazing panel of experts today. Make sure that you're typing in those questions in the chat on Facebook, or you can text your questions to 313-288-2082. Again, 313-288-2082. We're gonna go ahead and try to get to all of the questions, but if there's a question we don't get to, we're gonna go ahead and post those on our partners' Facebook pages early next week. So thank you so much. If you just joined us and you need Spanish, Arabic, or ASL interpretation, para conectar en español, por favor, hable al 313-626-7440. A 313-626-7440. Hoy la señora Gloria Rosas y Cristina Ruiz Mazón harán la traducción. Said, can you please share the number for Arabic translation?
إن كنت بحاجة للترجمة إلى اللغة العربية رجاء الاتصال على الرقم 313-241-7030. معكم سعيد ونجوى دحدح ونحن مستعدون لخدمتكم. شكرا.
Thank you, Said. Katie or Julie, please share the instructions for ASL. Okay, now I will turn it over to another mama. Sorry, Katie. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to my friend, Arlisa.
Thank you, Cindy. And yes, that video warmed my heart. I wish you love. It was so fitting and so proper. I was just singing along. How can you resist that? It's what we really needed. So sweet and so beautiful. So once again, my name is Arlisa Hurd, and I am a parent of 2 sons, a member of 482 Forward, and also a member of this wonderful coalition, the COVID313 Community Coalition. My family and I reside in the Focus Hope neighborhood, which is also known as Hope Village. And yes, I too am one of those women from Michigan. I don't know about you, but I've learned so much over these last several weeks. I've learned now more than ever just how fragile life is. I've also learned how important it is to have a peace of mind. I've also learned so much about family and where my strength comes from. And I've also learned the beauty of patience, especially when it comes to at-home learning with my 8th grader, right? Need lots of patience there. But patience is described as the ability to wait or to continue doing something despite the difficulties. Patience is something, excuse me, patience is the ability to wait or continuing to do something despite the difficulties. And doesn't that describe what lots of us are experiencing right now? We are continuing to do despite the difficulties. We are continuing to care for our families. We're continuing to work with our children at home or work our jobs from home. We are continuing to help others in our community, our neighbors, our friends. We are continuing to fight for equity and justice in our schools, justice for those unfairly treated. And we are continuing to be patient and hang in there. Staying safe, staying in as much as possible, socially distancing despite the difficulty in doing so. I know states and businesses are starting to open. The weather is getting warmer. In fact, it's a really nice day today. We're all getting antsy. but we can't afford to slack off now. So I would just encourage everyone to let's continue to be as safe as possible. And if we hang in there and keep practicing all the safety measures, the better our chances of eventually beating this and returning to the things and the people we love. So let's practice patience and continue to do despite the difficulties. Hang in there, get to the finish line. It's near. So now all that is out of the way. Let's get started with our program. And next up, we're going to have one of our super moderators, Christine Bell. Christine, take it away.
Thank you, Arlisa. I definitely needed the reminder around patience, and your words are always very inspiring. So thank you. Our expert panelists today will share with us the 3 to 5 most important pieces of information that families and students need to know right now. Some of them will also lead us in activities that we can do at home. For our experts, please remember to speak slowly for our translators. They want to make sure they are translating the important information that you are sharing correctly. Also, remember to turn off your cameras when you're not speaking to ensure that our ASL interpreters can be seen. And remember to mute yourself when you're not speaking. Patrick Boyle is our timekeeper today. He will chat you your remaining time. And if you go over your time, Jametta will gently remind you to wrap it up. We will be taking questions from our audience at the end of your segment. And I'm going to hand it over to Jametta so that we can get right into our information today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christine. And thank you for our parent voices, because as you said, we are all learning new ways to cope. We're learning our strengths, and we are, very importantly, we are learning, and that is so important to this process. And so speaking of learning, that is a perfect segue into our next section, because we are going to be celebrating. One of the things that the coalition is here to do is not only provide you with facts and support, but also to encourage collective action that uplifts policies that support our children and our families. So we are excited to say that there's been a major legal victory. And that is that the courts have acknowledged that our children have a fundamental right to basic minimum education. But what does that mean? And what does it mean when our Governor Whitmer and others are acknowledging this victory? But like all victories and things of this magnitude, there's details. So to help us understand more of what these details are, we're so pleased to have join us. It's Mark Rosenbaum. Mark is the attorney with Public Counsel. Mark, welcome.
It's nice to be here with you all. I'm very grateful to have an opportunity to talk with you again.
We are too. And so we'd like to dive in with a couple of questions that we think will help us better understand what the issue is and what's occurred. And I want to remind the audience that you have ways to ask questions. We will pause afterwards for your questions. You can type them into the Facebook chat, or you may type them to 313-288-2082. Mark, first off, what is the settlement and where does it stand right now?
Well, as you stated, Jametta, on April 23rd, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, the federal courts that deal with appellate matters, said for the first time in the history of this country, 66 years after Brown versus Board of Education, that all children have a constitutional right to a basic minimum education, that all children have a constitutional right of access to literacy, to get what they need so that they can reach their potential. Shortly after that decision came down, we began engagement with Governor Whitmer, with the Superintendent of Public Instruction in Michigan, and with members of the State Board of Education. And a settlement was reached with the governor that is the first settlement, again, in the history of this country that specifically addresses the literacy needs of children in Detroit. And it's also a settlement that says to the state of Michigan, what you did to the Michigan schools in Detroit, what you did to the Detroit students was wrong. And here are the first steps that will be taken to address that improper state intervention that made the challenges so difficult for the children, for their families, and for the teachers. Here's the basic features of that settlement. First, the governor is going to take from her own funds over $2 million right away and use that to address specific needs of the schools in terms of delivering literacy. So in conjunction with the superintendent of schools in Detroit, with community groups, that money will be used to, say, reduce teacher-student ratios in classrooms. It'll be used to bring in literacy interventionists and coaches to assist children and to assist teachers. It will be used to have effective training for teachers to deliver literacy. It will be used in order to provide appropriate materials. You know, the kids we met with didn't even have books to take home for homework. And it will be used to address needs in the facilities so that literacy can be properly delivered. I think as your audience understands, as the community understands, these schools were run into the ground when the state was in charge of them. And so they're too hot, they're too cold, there are rats, there are vermin, there are not the proper laboratories, computer needs in those schools, and the money can be utilized for that. In addition, some $280,000 will go to the 7 brave students who stood up to the state of Michigan under Governor Snyder and said, this is wrong. This needs to be changed. In addition, the governor has agreed to support $94 million worth of improvements to the schools and go to the legislature and say, this is what is needed to begin to build these schools back to where they belong. There will be task force set up that will include community representatives, teacher representatives, student representatives. I hope those listening will make efforts to become part of those committees to work on recommendations. And finally, all state control of the Detroit schools will be removed once and for all. Where do we go from here? There are, tragically, the Republican legislature, Republicans on the State Board of Education, lawyers representing those, the same lawyers who said that the children of Detroit had, quote, intellectual limitations. They are fighting to overturn Judge Clay's decision. And a good question to be asked is, why are these legislators who are out there to serve all the people of Michigan fighting so hard to say to the children of Michigan, of Detroit, and the children throughout the state, you don't have a right to a basic minimum education? So for the community that was so much responsible for this victory, the struggle continues. And it's time to say to those legislators, get off the backs of these kids. Why don't you want these kids to have the same sort of education you would want for your kids?
Mark, that last question is profound, and we know it exists across many different areas. Why are there people who stand in the way of that which is going to benefit all of our children? And so you've identified some wonderful attributes and things that will occur as a result of the legislation. And again, to our audience, these are opportunities for our collective action, for you to be part of not only these task force, but to also work with schools and community-based organizations, 482 Forward, and others that have helped move this coalition forward. But if you could, just very quickly, how would you identify who are the entities right now that are on point to make sure that the voices of those who support all children having the right to literacy, who should they be working with to make sure that those in the legislature understand that it's unacceptable that us in the richest nation of the world have schools that are decrepit and are not responsive to the needs of our children?
And that we have 2 sets of school systems, one set of school systems for the children of those legislators, for the affluent community, and then another set of schools that don't have the same opportunities for children. As I said, 66 years after Brown, there's a 2-tier system of education in Michigan. And the answer to your question is the most important question for us, because it was the struggle. It wasn't the lawyers. It was the communities that won this case, and it is the communities that are necessary to preserve that victory. The message has to be clear. It has to be loud. It has to be public. It has to say to the Republican legislature, who has filed papers in the Court of Appeals and said, end this, say that there is no right, say that the status quo is appropriate. Those groups that are part of putting on this program today have been the leaders. That's where the forces come from. And it is equally important that the public know, that all who are watching know what they're trying to do here. They're trying to go back and say that the prior conditions are acceptable, and that the statement that children don't have a basic right to literacy, that's inappropriate. They're trying to tear that down. They're trying to tear down what is the basis for civic engagement, for children to have an opportunity to better their circumstances. And the word has to be out what these legislators are doing.
Mark, thank you. And a reminder to all of us, you lifted it up, that our social action has to be clear, it has to be loud, and it has to be persistent. And in fact, no, we are not going back. We are only here to move forward and do that together by being planful and persistent and organized. Thank you so much. And again, to our audience, please look up the information, be in touch with 482 Forward and the coalition overall. This, like any other major victory for justice and equity, requires focus and diligence. We're almost there, but we're not there because we have opposition, and it's our responsibility to stand up for our children. Thank you so much, Mark.
Could I add just one more thing briefly, please?
Yes, very quickly, please.
The whole nation is watching. This is for the schools in Detroit. It's also for the schools in Benton Harbor and Flint and Pontiac, and it's for the children in Cleveland and Baltimore and in Jackson, Mississippi, and in Stockton, California. The whole nation is watching, and that's especially why this is so vital now.
Yeah, in fact, I would say some of us remember the call, the whole world is watching. Are we, in fact, going to live up to the values that so often people talk about, that children are first? So we dare them, we defy them to make this happen. Thank you so much, Mark. We'll look to hear more from you, and we'll look to have more on this topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Good. So I want to make sure, though, that if we have an opportunity for questions, again, hopefully you have typed some of those into the Facebook chat, or you have texted them to 313-288-2082. Christine, do we have any questions?
We do. We have one question, and you may have touched on it already, but it's it says, so with the literacy settlement being in question, what does it mean for the students right now? And I'm going to assume we're talking about the plaintiffs on the case. Could we just speak to that briefly? Mark?
I think Mark had to get off.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Well, we will definitely get that question answered. So look for it on onepbs.org. Jametta, what's up next?
Yes, thank you, Christine, and we'll make sure we get back with that. Hopefully some people are doing some more reflection on this call to action, because that's certainly what it is. We're going to move our segment now to having a focus on a population that is too often overlooked, and that's looking at those communities, those families and individuals who are being impacted by housing insecurity. How can we support them, particularly through this pandemic? So we have several experts that are coming to share with us what's going on, what they are doing, and how we can support these communities. And to start us off, we have Laura Mitchell. Laura is the Executive Director of Samaritas. Laura, welcome.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon. And thank you for this opportunity to talk about Samaritas and our services. So May is National Foster Care Awareness Month. So a very important month in the work of keeping children safe and keeping families whole. Michigan has over 12,000 children in out-of-home placement right now. Samaritas is the largest nonprofit organization in Michigan, supporting children and families in foster care. We support 1,000 children and their families every day. And this is a very important area of work for us. I'm very thankful to have this opportunity this afternoon to talk to our Detroit audience about foster care and how it has been impacted by COVID-19. Foster care and support for vulnerable children and families in Michigan is definitely impacted by COVID. Our goal when a child enters foster care is always to return that child home to their family as quickly as possible. As long as that is a safe place for the child to be, that's definitely where we want children. The work that we do in foster care, we support the children, making sure that all their needs are taken care of and met. We work with their parents to support them to make changes that are needed in order for that child to be able to return home safely. And we also support our foster parents and relative caregivers who are providing that daily support and love and providing guidance to our children who have experienced some level of trauma as the reason for being removed from home and placed in foster care. Our work typically is done in person. Our caseworkers do regular home visits with kids and parents and foster parents or relatives. And, we're social workers. So we're used to being, together in person. So certainly COVID has had a significant impact on our services. Samaritas is working closely with the state of Michigan around the governor's executive orders, around policy changes that have happened with the state of Michigan around foster care services. And we're also monitoring the CDC guidelines closely as we do our work in this new normal that we have. So our teams and our families are now working together virtually as opposed to being in person. They are using FaceTime or other virtual platforms to be able to connect and to be able to at least see each other and continue the same work that we were doing, except now it is done virtually. I am amazed at how well our staff and all of our families have adapted to this. I think that, one thing that COVID has brought to all of us is that it does not, segregate to any population, right? We are all impacted in very much the same ways by what is happening now. So I think that there's a real joining in that is happening. But I am amazed at how quickly our teams have been able to adapt to the change. And again, our primary goal is keeping kids safe and assuring that they have a safe place to sleep at night. Social isolation is one of the greatest threats to our children whose families are already in a fragile state. Children are more vulnerable right now with increased socioeconomic stress in the family. Their safety net is reduced because kids aren't in school right now or participating in sports or otherwise in the community. With the level of social isolation heightened, socioeconomic stress and that safety net reduced, the vulnerability of families right now is certainly increased. We are concerned at Samaritas and with the state of Michigan, concerned about considerable drop in calls that are made to protective services during this time. The pandemic and the stay-at-home orders have taken kids out of sight and away from those who are their safety net, their teachers, their daycare providers, and other adults who are required to report concerns of child abuse or neglect. What we need.
I'm so sorry, Laura, but just for a quick moment, because we are almost out of time, and you've said something really critical, which is that we've seen an uptick with abuse and neglect. Could you kindly provide, again, the resource that families who are undergoing this or others who are watching this, what are some of the resources and or link or telephone number that they can call?
Yes, so if you visit our website, samaritas.org, I do want to say that we are continuing to actively recruit foster parents during this time, again, using virtual means. So if you contact samaritas.org, which is on the screen, or call 616-260-3441, we can certainly start the conversation with you about what it takes to be a foster parent. And I think, really the last comment is we need to rally our village during this time. It's important that we all check in on families that we know are struggling, give them a quick call, check in, ask how they're doing. That really means a lot to families who are struggling and can, improve that circumstance for the family and for those children.
Laura, thank you so very much to our larger community out there. This is National Foster Care Awareness Month. It's also National Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's so important for us to connect and to support those who are more fragile in our community. And at times like this, it's impacting all of us. And so our next speaker can certainly speak to that as well. And that's Liliana Reyes. She is the Drop-In Center Director at Ruth Ellis Center. Welcome, Liliana. Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
So again, my name is Liana. I work at the Ruth Ellis Center. The Ruth Ellis Center works with LGBT homeless between the ages of 13 and 30. I also work with Trans Sisters of Color project, which works with trans women of color in Metro Detroit. And so COVID is, and I like to remind people equal before we started, and it's definitely impacting everyone differently. So for folks who have historically had lots of violence, LGBT people of color, trans women of color, COVID is hitting them much differently. We're talking about youth, young people who are 13, 14 ago, who may be doing sex work in order to get by in everyday life. And COVID is making it difficult, whether or not you're doing sex work or doing consulting work. And so what we've done at the Ruth Ellis Center is we offer food boxes 2 to 3 days a week, and that includes delivery. Those boxes go to LGBT youth or their families. And you don't necessarily have to have had experience at the Ruth Ellis Center, but you do have to fit the qualifications. We also do case management. So we do help youth that need to get on unemployment and their families get on unemployment. We help them with emergency case management that we talk directly to the coordinated entry system so that we can get them into housing or in a space. We've seen a lot of extra racism happening, extra transphobia happening during COVID. And we just have to remember that homelessness looks very different for everyone. Not every homeless person is sleeping on the street or in a park. Oftentimes they're couch surfing or doing sex work to get a hotel room. And so homelessness looks different, but it's getting worse during COVID because of social distancing, because everything's closed. Some of our folks were out of town and they're stuck, so we had to get them money to come back. So Ruth Ellis does food boxes, and you can call 313-365-3337. Again, 313-365-3337. If you or families that you know want a food box to either pick it up or deliver. And if you need any case management services dealing with homelessness or LGBT issues, you can call that number as well. If you know any trans women of color in the Metro Detroit area who need assistance, whether that's money or food or transportation, you can reach out to me because we also give that for them as well.
Liliana, thank you so much. Again, I'm hoping the audience caught that information. If you didn't, I will make sure that information is available in the chat. Liliana, thank you for offering yourself individually to be a support specifically to the community. We want to continue again looking at housing insecurity. And as you stated, it's very different with different populations. And so someone who has a great deal of experience with this in a number of different ways is Linda Little, who is the president and CEO of the Neighborhood Services Organization. Linda, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. And it's so nice to see such a wonderful, diverse group of talented professionals in Detroit. So glad to be here. You know, I really want to take a moment and just, you know, bring a little bit of gravity to what it feels like to be homeless during this COVID-19 pandemic. As many of the other speakers have identified, when the stay-at-home order, which is very necessary to flatten that curve, was put into place, the homeless population had to shelter in place as well. And we run a 24-hour drop-in center in Detroit for homeless adults primarily, but we had to meet all of their basic needs as a result of the shelter-in-place order. So providing 3 meals a day, laundering their clothes, helping to provide assistance with paying their bills, meeting all of their medical needs. We have a medical clinic on site that we had to open 5 days a week from 2 days a week. We brought in telebehavioral health services. We did a lot of things, including actually relocating our shelter so that there could be ample social distancing to keep everybody safe. What we're seeing is, you know, this population is really being impacted with, you know, this public health crisis and having to educate them about the importance of washing their hands, making sure they have adequate hand stations. Even our street outreach team has partnered with Wayne State University School of Medicine to make sure that there's hand sanitizing stations throughout the city of Detroit. But what we do know is that this economic impact that we are feeling right now as a result of COVID-19 has yet to peak. We are already starting to see a lot of new people entering the homeless system. And that is going to increase, we know, over time because of the unemployment rates. We know that children and families are being impacted by this. And so we're going to have a new dynamic that we have to deal with, even with children, teaching them why it's important to wear a mask, helping them with hand washing, providing activities for the children and possibly even educational opportunities because of online learning. There's a whole new norm and experience for how we handle and manage the population of the homeless. The economic indicators that are increasing homelessness will also include the eviction moratorium that may be lifted, and seeing also the pre-existing barriers to affordable housing. You know, it's going to be difficult to place those that are impacted into some type of permanent housing. And the COVID-19 fears has exposed the transient population. I think one of the other speakers mentioned that before. So people who used to couch surf, there's fears of their family members or their friends that they may be someone who can transfer COVID-19 to their family. So they're being displaced as well. So we are going to see our community partners, speaking to all my friends and colleagues, we're going to see an increased demand for our services. So I urge you, as we are, to ready yourselves to expand your capacity to meet the great need that we're going to have in our communities. You know, NSO is working with Detroit Association of Black Organizations, DABO, that's doing community-wide testing throughout the city of Detroit with some other partners. And we are providing basic needs support to all of those residents who show up to get tested. We're reaching out and providing food assistance, housing and utility assistance. If they need clothing, if they need connections to healthcare, whatever their basic needs are, we're providing those wraparound services to our communities to make sure that they have what they need.
Linda, thank you so much. You have highlighted the critical, all of the intersections of our society that are being revealed for how fragile they are and underdeveloped and fragmented they are as a result of COVID is a spotlight on all of these inequities that exist. So thank you both to Liliana, to Linda, and also to make sure that we also are thanking Laura, all of you for your presentations. We'd like to make sure that the audience has an opportunity to ask questions. Again, you can type those into the Facebook chat, or you can text those to 313-288-2082. Christine, do we have any questions?
Not at this time, but we want to encourage folks to please put their questions in the chat. We also are dropping a survey in the chat right now. And if you fill that out, you'll be entered to win a raffle for a $25 gift card. So we're encouraging folks, ask your questions. We've got some really great experts on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And so many of the comments that our previous speakers highlighted was the underlying issue of our emotional and mental health and wellness. And so that's going to be our segment. Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't want I didn't want you to go too far. Our prompt must have done some good. We do have one question.
Okay.
We've got more.
That's great. We want to hear those.
Are there any resources for renters to avoid homelessness? So I'm not sure, maybe NSO. Yeah, so are there any resources for renters to avoid homelessness?
Yes, there are some resources for renters to avoid homelessness. So there first of all is the eviction moratorium that I spoke about. So no landlord can evict tenants right now, but at some point that will be lifted. I know if you live in the city of Detroit, Mayor Mike Duggan has partnered with Wayne Metro, and they have funds to assist renters who may be in need of assistance. So please contact Wayne Metro.
Okay, and then this is just a follow-up question, Linda. Once the eviction order is lifted, some landlords are threatening with higher rent or immediate evictions. Do you have any guidance for that?
You know, I don't. I would say that there is a hotline on the Michigan State Attorney General's website for renters. So if you go on the mdhhs.gov website or the michigan.gov website, there's information there. But I would say the first call would be to Wayne Metro because they have the funding and is connected with the mayor's office to assist renters in Detroit.
Great, thank you, Linda. Jametta?
Yes, thank you. And we'll make sure to have that hotline number available. Wayne Metro has been on with several of our topics before, and this is absolutely a critical one. So to continue then, we'll move into our mental health segment. And again, if you'd like to have questions, make sure that you're texting those to Facebook chat. You can also text to 313-288-2082. And to move into this segment, we want to talk about the impact, particularly around escalating emotions and frustrations that are playing out in many of our families. And to help us to think about that is Kim Johnson, who is the president and CEO of Developing Kids. Kim, it's a joy to have you on board. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you so much for the invitation and to be a part of this panel with all great professionals. So I'd just like to say that the core of the work of Developing Kids is around youth development. So that's after school programs throughout the school year as well as in the summer. However, we do provide support to their families in addition to supporting the community. On the topic of mental health, we have been providing prior to the pandemic support groups for young people daily during the after school program. And through that, we do it with the partnership of Development Centers Incorporated. Since the time of the pandemic and continuously running, we continue to provide those services with development centers, but it's done on a virtual platform. So those videos are posted of activities that can be done to de-escalate children, just to provide some social and emotional support to them. And again, they're posted on our Facebook, our Instagram, and our Twitter pages so that families can engage at their leisure when they're ready to, because a lot of times when those emotions arise, it's not at the time that we planned for them. And while our team does not consist of therapists, they have been trained in how to facilitate grief, loss, and trauma sessions, as well as have been trained on psychological first aid. And I would tell you that for several years, we have been practicing facilitating these groups, not just with the young people that come to our programming, but also with anyone in the community that would like to participate on a monthly basis. During those workshops, we've had parents say that these youth have expressed feelings that they have never expressed when they've been in a paid session with a counselor. So we want to be able to provide what we need when it's needed. And I can tell you that right now, we're ramping up for a summer program where we are continuing an almost 10-year partnership with Wayne State University. We partner with 2 of their departments where there's art therapy as well as individual counseling and family counseling. We'll also be providing workshops. And this is, again, a part of our 6-week summer program. And I want to say that for the moms that are on this call, I can also relate. I can recall being a young 30-year-old widow with 3 young children. And then even though that was 14 years ago, recently during the time of the pandemic, having my husband become very ill with the coronavirus. And it was scary to my son, who was only 16 years old, and watching him deal with that, and having a very close friend who passed away from the virus, and she had a young daughter. So there are some things that I want to share that can be helpful in helping youth of any age, even adults, to de-escalate, to share their feelings. You can try letter writing. As you can see on the PowerPoint slide, that's just a note. And it was an activity where we had a room of about 30 young people. And it was just giving them time with some soft playing music to write down how they're feeling. And it was at the time of when Kobe Bryant passed. The room was full of young people crying as they wrote out their feelings on these note cards. As they write notes at home, you can have them put in a safe place. You can have them share with you as a parent at a special time, and maybe they're not ready to read it, but they'll want a sibling or someone else to read it and share with everyone in the household. Do a TikTok video. Take interest in something that they're interested in. There's a quote that has been held very true, that kids don't care what you want or what you know until they know that you care. Show them that you care about the things that they're interested in, and it'll help to open up time and feelings for them to share with you. And then the last one I would say is to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to let them see you cry and share your emotions with them. Let them know that emotions and the taking time to express emotions is a very healthy activity. And again, I want to thank you all for inviting me to be a part of this panel.
And thank you, Kim. You're reminding us of many of the things that we know we should always do, which is to love and listen and give our young people an opportunity to express their feelings. And we're gonna want to hear more from you about this as we go forward. We do want to continue though with our speakers in this segment. And so we're really pleased to have join us will be Lex Zavala. Lex is the Director of Programs and Development at the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation. Lex, welcome.
Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Lex Zavala. I am born and raised Detroiter from Southwest Detroit. I've been working with youth for 16 years now with the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation. And I'm just going to share some tips that help youth and families get through hard times. There's no way to get around having someone being elevated right now or having an emotional response to what's going on. First thing is acknowledging that, you know, everyone is going through trauma right now. No matter who you are, there's trauma going on because of this pandemic. And this trauma is pain. Pain causes a lot of different reactions. You can be sad, you can be aggravated, it could come out physically in a rash, acne. Pain is pain, and it's gonna come out one way, shape, or form. And when we don't have control of what's going on right now, you feel uncertain, and that's okay. No one has control of this pandemic. The only thing you can control is yourself and how you act to your emotions or other people's emotions. This is not normal times. You should not feel normal, and not feeling normal is okay. Your kids don't feel normal. You don't feel no one is feeling normal right now. All right. So I'm sorry, I cannot see my slides. Up. Yes, thank you. So the first thing is talking about the trauma, having a conversation with your family, sitting down and talking that, letting everybody know that, yes, we are going through trauma right now, and that's okay. Allowing a safe space for people to have these feelings of emotion and frustration is okay. What's not okay is hurting people while you're feeling angry, while you're feeling emotions. So setting clear boundaries for your kids for when they're elevated. Make sure they're clear and reasonable. You know, you don't want to, you can't punish your kid to stay in their room for a month because they blew up. You know, you want it to be something reasonable. When you calm down and you're able to come back to the family, you could come back, you know, and make agreements, write these agreements down somewhere, right? So somewhere where you can look back to it and you can remind your kids, we agreed that when we're elevated, when we're having an emotional episode, we're not going to use hurtful language. We're not going to use physical contact, things like that, you know, but allowing that safe place to have those emotional expressions. Emotions are real, and validating those emotions is sometimes more than enough. We can't fix the problem, but we can validate. Can you move to the next slide, please? Communication, yes. And again, give time for when someone is elevated. When your emotions are elevated, your whole frontal lobe shuts down. Your brain shuts down. The part of the brain that communicates decision-making shuts down. It's scientific fact. So giving your kids that time, that space, to once they've calmed down, they can hear what you have to say. If you're trying to talk to someone when they're elevated, they're not going to hear it. Their brain won't allow them to do so. And then also let your kids know that they will be forgiven. You know, love them. Let them know that this is time that they will be forgiven for their emotional outbreaks. As long as they're sticking to their agreements, there won't be a consequence to having an emotional feeling. Your emotions are real. Being sad, being aggravated, crying is something that's okay. And allowing your kids to cry and allowing yourself to cry right now is okay. It's not a sign of weakness. You know, we've grown up in a society, especially young men, where we're not allowed to cry. It's looked at as a weakness. And I was told by one of my teachers that your tears are the tears of your grandparents and your ancestors who weren't able to cry. And now that we're going through this trauma, again, that our ancestors have gone through before, it's okay to cry. Let's cry. And sometimes crying and going through these emotional, hard things is a relief for your kids. It's a time to be supportive in these emotional moments and be prepared for these emotional moments because they're gonna happen. So if you set these clear boundaries and let your family know that it's okay. It's okay to have these feelings. It's not okay to hurt each other while we're having these feelings, and set those clear boundaries. And then one thing I want to, another tip, can move on to the next slide, is using your 5 senses, right? Your 5 human basic senses. You know, you share this with your kids, use it yourself. Being able to use your different senses to calm you down is a quick and easy way that works, right? Remember first to breathe. You want to breathe deep, you want to breathe slow. Breathing, deep breathing, it changes your brain patterns, it allows your emotions to calm down. And then focus on one of your senses. The sense of seeing, right? Focus on the sun, the sky, beautiful painting, flowers, something that's eye-pleasing to you while you're breathing, that will take you out of that moment. The soft blanket, squeezing a stress ball, feeling something, especially if you have a child with ADD or ADHD, allowing them to fidget and have something that their hands can touch and move, they're able to listen and pay attention better when they're fidgeting. So having those things, Play-Doh is awesome too. You can squeeze and manipulate, and it's one way that you can communicate with them while they're calm down. It's a way for them to hear you. Listening to soft music, the sound of the wind, outdoors, the birds chirping, just taking that moment while you're breathing to be in that moment, to listen. Your smell, you know, well, we make packages of lavender and sage just to sit there when you're elevated, to take it and breathe and just smell.
Lex, thank you so much, particularly for that whole list of ways to calm ourselves. I have to share with you, as you did that and I focused, it was bringing a sense of peace with me. And that's what I think you, as well as with Kim, are encouraging us with these tips. But we want to make sure that we also have time for questions to follow up with what you've suggested, Lex, as well as with Kim. So pardon the interruption, but I'd like to make sure the audience knows that they can text 313-288-2082, or they can text their questions or comments into Facebook. So let me hit pause for a moment. Kim, if you have any other items, or Lex, we can hear that, but we want to first make sure. Christine, do we have any questions?
We do, and this, well, if Kim could go first and then Lex. The one question everybody wants to know is there a cost for their services?
No, the programs and services are provided at no cost.
Same here. Our services at Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation are free.
Thank you both. And these organizations are amazing organizations that are doing such wonderful work with kids and families. So thank you both for being here. Jametta?
Yes, and thank you. And so that makes me remember to do a census plug, because our census brings in more dollars to our community. So those dollars can in fact support the organizations that you're seeing here. So between our federal and state dollars and city dollars and foundation dollars, all of us are able to support our community better. And speaking of community support, fundamental obviously is health and education, but we're going to move into our education segment now. So again, as you're thinking about questions for our educators, make sure that you can go into the Facebook chat, or you can text 313-288-2082. And both of our educators are going to be focusing in on what are their districts doing, in particular responding to not only children who are homeless, but the emerging population that we see that is so transient, and that we know educators have known has been an issue, particularly that's escalated over this past decade. So to start us off, we have Terrence George, who is the superintendent with Covenant House Academy, and he will be followed by Deputy Superintendent Dwight Jones with DPSCD. Terrence, if you could start us off, please.
Sure. Molly, will you put up that screen for me? Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Terry George from Covenant House Academy. We operate 3 schools in Detroit, focused on students. There we go. If you could go to the slide after that, Molly, please, that would be great. To understand what we try to do, you need to understand our student population. And if you look at this graphic, you'll get a good sense of who we are and who we try to serve. You can see that before the pandemic, roughly 1/3 of our students report that they've been homeless at one point in their life or another, several at multiple points. More than 10% of our students have been in foster care or have been incarcerated or have a child. And the statistic that always boggles my mind is that most of our students have attended at least, or 35% of our students have attended at least 4 previous high schools. So we deal with a population that even in the best of times is really unsettled. So in these current days, all the challenges they face normally have multiplied 10 times, 50 times. Molly, could you go to the next slide, please? I'm sorry, the one before that, the top one. As I talk about what we've been trying to do, you might get the mistaken impression that we actually had a plan and that we were organized and we really knew what we were doing. That would be a huge mistake. I can tell it in an organized fashion now because we've sort of found our sea legs, but it was really very chaotic. What's emerged for us is that we had to look at our students in 3 distinct areas and try to meet their needs to the best of our ability in each of those areas. So first along that list is physical needs, which right out of the gate was food. A lot of our kids rely on our school breakfast and our school lunch for food. So in the midst of the chaos of the first shutdown, we were talking with gleaners. We now have weekly gleaners food distributions at our campuses, but there were lots of weekend emails and phone calls with that. That was one of the huge needs that we had. Also, though, emotional needs, and you've heard a couple of the speakers talk about the trauma and the stress that comes with our current situation. And in our case, that's trauma and stress added on to a high level of anxiety that our kids face every day. And then last, but certainly not least, is trying to meet the academic needs of our students. One thing that I do want to share with everybody is the website that we have. I'll talk about it in a moment, but we've created a resource page for our students and their families. But I think that page would be helpful for everybody listening. It has information on where to get food, where to go for shelter, where to get legal help, counseling help, even things like diapers. So I encourage you to check out that website. It's not pretty, but it has a lot of good resources there. Let me start with the physical needs. As I mentioned, we really worried about food. We have something in place there. And of course, the new EBT expansion has helped considerably for our students. Along with those distributions, though, we have a lot of families that can't come to us, either because they don't have a vehicle or because they're showing symptoms and they don't want to contaminate anybody else. So we've had staff that have made deliveries of those gleaners packs. We've also delivered hygiene kits, gift cards, and then we also offer some technical expertise, signing up for Medicaid, for SNAP, and for other healthcare resources. We do weekly a wellness check-in. We try to reach every student once per week to make sure that they're physically okay, emotionally okay, and see if we can offer any support. We're also really fortunate that Alternatives for Girls has partnered with us, and they will do case management for some of our students. And lastly, some of the things that our students are starting to face is domestic violence. The more people are cooped up, so we're starting to get more questions about that. I see there's a question here. I can pause if you want to answer that question. Okay, I'll keep going then, and we can answer the question later. The other area that we really need to think about is the emotional needs for our students. The trauma, and several people have talked about it. It's really a new and painful world. One of our students discovered his 7-year-old sister had passed away this weekend, and they've been living in a week-to-week hotel. So we know already that's a student we need to be able to support. So we've worked with Star Commonwealth. All of our staff now have been trained to be trauma sensitive, so that when we're calling students, we know what to say, we know what not to say, we know when to listen, when to shut up, and really just let them talk about what they're dealing with at this point. Our counselors and our social workers are in the process of planning for a grief support group or multiple grief support groups when we can do it, and they make themselves available for telehealth conferencing. And then the last category, and it really is the least important category in some ways, and yet it is very important, and that is the academics. We need to keep our students moving forward with what we think is coming with the economy. Our students need a high school diploma more than ever. So we really were challenged. We've distributed computer tablets to about 1/3 of our students. So more than 150. We've helped them get online with Comcast by guiding them through the steps they need to take advantage of the low-cost internet access. It's a work in progress. Our students are still not working at the level that we used to see, but it's slowly creeping up. So we hope, now that they know this is a long-term commitment, now that we have computer tablets in their hands, we've been able to get internet access, we hope we can continue them on their path toward a high school diploma. And I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Thank you, Terrence, so much. We are going to certainly have some questions. And you've identified one of the issues that people have been bringing forth, which is questions around the digital divide, technology, how your schools are addressing that is helpful, as well as the issues of trauma, in particular transient populations. And our heart goes out to the child and their family that have just had this loss that is occurring just much too much. So we'd like to shift to continue our conversation with education by welcoming Dwight Jones. Dwight is the Deputy Superintendent for the Detroit Public School District. Dwight, please, we're happy to have your remarks for 10 minutes. And then after that, gentlemen, we will have a Q&A. Dwight.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dwight Jones. I'm the Executive Director for the Office of School Climate and Culture. The role of the Deputy Superintendent of School belongs to that of Ironetta Wright. And if you've seen our org chart, you would understand why I definitely want her to hold title to that.
Okay, certainly. We've made note of the critique. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So I want to just talk about some of the services, supports, and initiatives provided by the Office of School Climate and Culture through our Office of Homeless and Foster Care Services, and how we've been assisting students during this pandemic. Just some data points of concerns. We had AmeriCorps members that was working in our school, and due to the pandemic, we had to shift their work, and I felt it was best to shift their work to be able to support those students that we had already identified during the course of the year. Prior to the pandemic, we had identified, or we had been able to capture 1,007 students. Since that time, we have been able to steadily increase the enrollment of students in the Office of Homeless and Foster Care. We've been able to make contact with 1,039 students and spoke to about 67% of those parents and families in regards to doing wellness checks and following up on their needs. As you all realize and know, with McKinney-Vento, the district cannot provide support to those families unless they are actually students within our district. In this stride, since the shutdown, we've been able to enroll an additional 50 students within our school district to be able to provide them support as being enrolled or re-enroll those students into our school district. So that's been some work that we've been able to do that I'm most proud of. In addition to that, we have a referral process, and we've been able to get active links up and available on our DPSCD website under our schools division and academic programs. In that section, you'll find the referral link, and you'll be able to schedule an appointment for those individuals that may know someone that is in a homeless or foster care situation to be able to reach out to our staff. If you go to the slide that talks about this referral process, also that you have here, the first link of the OHFC staff, any one of the members in that office will have access to get the email if it was sent directly to them. Michelle Parker is our Assistant Director of the Office of Homeless and Foster Care, along with the two individuals that's there, the two ladies we've been able to hire after the shutdown and the stay-at-home order was in place, Tabitha Scott and Jennifer Racones, who have been able to be an asset to the team and providing additional support to families and students throughout the district. Some of our initiatives, when made contact with one of the ladies, what they basically do is do a questionnaire to identify families qualify for homeless or foster care services. And then those families are asked about basic needs, things of that nature, and how we provide those resources to them. If you look at the bottom of the slide that talks about the booking app, this is the one that I referenced that's on our schools division and academics program page, that you can find a quick link and create an appointment that will go directly to the ladies in the office so they can set you up with being able to provide your next steps and needs. Some of our family situations are different from the other. And this, what we have listed here is just several different areas in which we've been able to provide support. Fortunate enough for the CARES Act that's been able to provide some support to our family, in particular with funeral expenses and assistance that have taken place throughout this time. If you go to the next slide, which is the one that I'm referencing, these are a list of services that we provide within the district when we identify what services that our families are in need of. The next slide discusses additional resources that we have as it relates to DPSCD. As some of the ladies prior to mentioned, if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Some of the ladies mentioned there that we provided many services. So from our area, technology access for distance learning, our grab and go sites, there's mental health support. That number is there for you. The Parent Academy, we've been in collaboration with the Office of FACE, Family and Community Engagement, which is led by Assistant Superintendent Jolanda Buckman. And then we have our district help hotline that's there as well. If you go to the next slide, there's some additional pieces of the partners, internal and external community members that we've been able to work with. As I mentioned, the FACE office, Office of Enrollment, has been instrumental in supporting us as we've been able to capture students and enroll them. Detroit Phoenix Center, I don't want to leave out other institutions, CAM, Shelter Coordinated Access Model Detroit, and definitely Wayne Risa with providing clothing voucher transportation, in addition to Park West Gallery that assists with foster care related supports for students. One more slide, I believe, is there. Yes, and this is our Office of Homeless and Foster Care location where we're in the district, located at Douglas Academy. If there are any additional questions or support, please feel free to reach out to that office. The number is there, and if you have any questions that I can answer, please feel free to ask them now.
Okay, thank you so very much. So at this point, we'd like to open it up to the audience again for your questions. Please make sure that you put those in the Facebook chat, or you can also text them to 313-288-2082. Christine, do we have any questions for our educational systems, Terrence, as well as with Dwight?
We do, and then we also have a question for Lex. I just want to encourage folks to continue to post your questions in the chat, and also a survey is being posted in the chat right now. If you fill it out, you'll be entered into a raffle for a $25 gift card. And so for both Dwight and Terrence, for drug addiction and abuse, are there any Zoom calls available for people that are struggling with this? Or do you have any resources that you could point folks to?
For our DPSCD, we have through our risk management website on the district's main page, there is resources available with community stakeholders that we are partnered with.
And I would say the same, that resource page that I shared would be the best place to go. There are several resources for counseling and mental health that if they couldn't help, they would direct somebody to the right place.
Great, thank you. And then Lex, if you could pop back on, can you address panic attacks and sleepless nights for anxiety? Do you have any suggestions for families where their children or they're experiencing panic attacks or sleepless nights due to anxiety? I'm going to guess that Lex is on mute, or he was not able to. Oh, Lex, I just got word that Lex popped off. Okay, so the person that asked that question, we'll make sure that we get you some information about that. But I also think what Terrence and Dwight just pointed to in terms of their websites, there are resources there that if those types of issues are happening on a consistent basis, to utilize those resources that they've put together for folks. Thank you both so much, and back to you, Jamette.
Okay, thank you, Christine. And thank you both, Dwight as well as Terrence, for sharing the wealth of resources that are available. And we're encouraging our community to realize that your schools, individual schools, or your system has resources and is here for you through this time period. So we want to move now to talking about health. Because we know that's front and center with so much of what we're experiencing with COVID. And so we're very pleased to bring back two people that had some important expertise to share with us. The first is Dr. Ovetta Fuller, and she is at the Department of Microbiology and Immunology at the University of Michigan. Dr. Fuller, welcome back. Please share with us some highlights as we think about the reality that people are getting out in the public and thinking that things might be safe now that others are saying open up. Could you speak to that, please?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the invitation to return to the COVID313 group. You guys do a great job and cover so many areas that are critical to the community. So please keep up the good work until we don't need it anymore. And hopefully that time will come. Yes, so where are we? I have prepared a few things that hopefully will help us to see where we are and what we need to do. If I can share my screen here, see if I can get this going. Let's see. So do you see the slide? Not yet. Can you see the slide?
I'm not able to. Does Molly have a copy of those wonderful slides?
She does, but let's see. I think I can do this. So the point that we're trying to make here is, as we now enter into a new phase, that so I'm sharing my screen.
And we have slides.
Yes, you do have them. I just have a couple modifications that would be useful. Can you see my screen yet? No? All right, well, Molly, just show yours as we go. That's fine. All right, so this is simply to remind us that as we move into a new phase, that we need to remain diligent. That's the take-home message. I spoke with you earlier in April and went over some of the specifics of what COVID is as a respiratory virus and how easily it is transmitted. If we go to the next slide, we'll see now that we have Governor Whitmer's 6 phases of reentry for Michigan to safely go back to whatever new normal is, to be able to function even in the presence of a coronavirus that will not have been eradicated. So we were initially in an uncontrolled growth phase, which is when the initial stay home, stay safe declaration was made back in early March. We saw persistent spread, which is what we've been in the last few, a month and a half. We are now entering into phase 3, where we see a flattening. This tells you what's happening with the disease, what we need to do to remain safe, what work can be done, and what factors determine whether we progress forward or whether we go backwards. Note, we can go forward, which is the goal to get to stage 6 post-pandemic. But unless we do the things that are required to keep the virus at bay from replicating in people or getting to new people, we will regress to an earlier phase. So in phase 3, growth is gradually declining thanks to all people who have been staying home and doing those things that are necessary. Continuous distancing, continual face coverings even as we go out. And even as we come upon Memorial Day weekend and the holidays and the beautiful weather in Michigan, no gatherings. That's hard because we all want to get out. We all want to be social. We all want to engage. But this is so important to continue to do. This shows you the companies that are open so that we can get to phase 4. You could go to the next slide, please. What do we do as we move into this re-entry phase? It is absolutely necessary to follow the guidelines of preventing virus encounter or spread in the community. So these things are listed. They're not new. Wearing masks is something that we are not used to doing, but when we're outside of the home, we need to do that. And not just put it on initially, but keep it on, which means you might have to have several masks to exchange over time. And then all the other things following the institutional local guidelines, gently encouraging others to do so. Sometimes people just need a reminder, you need to put your mask back on, or would you put your mask back on? Stay diligent, remain diligent. Over caution is better than regret. So that's what we need to think about as we now engage a little bit more at businesses, or even if and when we go back to school. Next, please. So be sure you get reliable information. There's lots of information that may not be the best thing. So I've just given you one source here that is a very easy to follow question and answer show that comes on the weekends, but you may find many others. Seek reliable sources that you understand. Be able to discern myth from truth. Confirm the facts. If somebody tells you to take this or to do that and you haven't found that someplace else, or you can't confirm it, don't do it. Understand that there's a lot we don't know yet about coronavirus and COVID-2. For instance, is someone who has been infected and who has recovered now immune to infection? We simply do not know the answer to that question. These are very practical questions that are asked on this show, a half-hour show. Next slide, please. Half-hour show done on the weekends, and you can send in questions to this particular location, very practical questions, like what's the difference between a vaccine and antibodies that are given to people to recover? Or what happens if 2 people in a room, one tests positive and one is negative? Can that happen? So these are very, very practical sources of information. Next slide, please. And so personally, I would like to say that since I saw you last on this show, not only do I have to deal with this as a virologist, but I have to deal with this as a daughter and a mother. My mother actually was ill, not from COVID, but she was 96 years old, and she passed about a week ago. So then I'm beginning to ask, how do we do this? I actually said to her, Mom, this is not a good time to die because we're in the midst of COVID. And plus, I want to spend a lot more time with you. But she did. She went on to whatever is next. And so how did we deal with this? And how do many of the people who are dealing with loved ones who are lost deal with that issue? The point is remain diligent, follow the guidelines to prevent spreading virus in the community. So what did we do? We had a public viewing at the funeral home where there were only 10 people allowed. This is a sign that was there. You had to have a mask to go through. These are some people going through. We had a private family service with less than 50 people. This is in North Carolina, which that is the newest guideline. We had a confirmed guest list. The guests who knew they were coming knew that they either had to isolate or be tested, or they should honor my mother by not coming. We worked with the funeral home personnel and clergy to make sure that everything was safe in the church in our case, but this needs to happen in the synagogue or otherwise. And then next slide, please. At the service, this is inside the church where we actually did have a family service. My mother had been a member of that church, believe it or not, for 87 years. And so her pastor honored our family's wishes by allowing her to be the first person to be funeralized inside the service. But we had very strict rules. Attendees were self-screened to be safe from COVID, or tested they got tested themselves. We always observed 6 feet distance. Everybody was wearing masks, as you can see. There was no congregational singing, no choir, no shared microphones, no hugging or touching. At the funeral home, people washed their hands or sanitized their hands before touching the pen. At the cemetery, everybody still had masks. These are some immediate family members. Next slide, please. So this was very difficult. Once we understood that we were in this time, The question becomes, how do you practice what you preach? And so on one of the shows that I do, my mother was actually memorialized with this slide in memory of Deborah Woods Fuller. She was an elementary teacher or a middle school teacher for over 41 years. So even in her passing, she's forever the educator, because we struggled to be sure to honor her by doing the things that would prevent anybody from getting exposed to COVID while honoring her life. We'll have a celebration later, but this was the immediate thing we did. And I use this as an example, not so you give me your condolences, but so you understand that in the midst of an emotional situation, we still have to remain safe. Next slides, please. And the last slide simply reminds you of what's necessary to remain safe as we go through the next phases. We're in phase 3. We want to get to phase 6. The next slide, please. So these are resources. Be sure you find resources that work for you so that you can remain safe and make good decisions, and remind others to make good decisions so that we can stop coronavirus and not have people who are ill or who pass due to this particular viral infection that can be prevented if we simply do what we're supposed to do. I am also one of those women from Michigan, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share in this forum as we all try to keep our community safe. Thank you, and I will be happy to answer any questions. I also refer you back to the previous slides that were hopefully are still available, because they do from April, because they give some of the details of what you need to know about coronavirus and COVID-19 as a disease. I will be happy to answer any questions that you have later. And thank you for this opportunity.
And thank you, Dr. Fuller. You are indeed an acorn that has not fallen far from her tree.
Oh, thank you.
And so blessings for lifting up your mother as an educator and educating us about how, in fact, we handle the very tough realities of grieving. And certainly I have seen too many Zoom funerals. And so thank you again. And thank you for sharing your personal story, because that gives us power for what we're going through. And so as we talk about knowledge is power, of course, we've got to hear from our Detroit Health Department. And we're so pleased, as always, to welcome back Chrystal Hepburn. She is the team lead for Children with Special Health Care Services. Chrystal, welcome back.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me back. It is a pleasure. And some of the materials that you're going to hear today were also reviewed by Linda Little and Dr. Fuller. So here at the Detroit Health Department, we want to make sure that we're always bringing you timely information, making sure that we are keeping you abreast of all the information going on in our community. And these are some of the questions that we often get. So currently our statistics, we have the positive cases in Detroit now registering 10,524 as of yesterday afternoon. The number of related deaths to COVID in Detroit itself is 1,282. We do have a great deal of testing, and I want to make sure that everyone is aware of new testing guidelines for Detroit residents only. In addition to other residents in Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb, testing is still available at Michigan State Fairgrounds for individuals to call and make an appointment at 313-230-0505. However, testing for Detroit residents now no longer requires a prescription. Anyone can obtain testing at that particular location as long as an appointment is made by calling that hotline. Transportation is still available for $2 round trip. Multi-languages are available not only when booking your appointment, but also at the location. I believe we touched on this last week about the new symptoms that have been seen in children. So I just wanted to make sure that those were put up there on the slide as well. We're definitely concerned watching for any individual that has a fever of 48 hours or longer, as well as the other symptoms listed. Thank you. Next slide. We're going to discuss contact tracing. Oftentimes we hear a lot about it in the news, but some individuals are not aware of just how timely and required it is for the public health staff to work with the patient that has been identified as being positive we need to contact trace. We need to check to see which individuals may have been likely in the same location for a particular time, that it could be a possible exposure. So that individual can also go ahead and be monitored, make sure that they're provided with education, information, and support if they happen to get the illness. The education that we provide at the Detroit Health Department includes information related to the exposure, the infection, the infectious period, as well as symptoms that may be seen within that individual. We also discuss treatment, isolation precautions, and provide assistance to referrals if additional medical services are required. Contact tracing is confidential. We want to make sure that individuals know that when information is being passed from the Detroit Health Department, all of this information is always kept confidential for the COVID and coronavirus, in addition to any other communicable diseases. This is an essential part of the team at the Detroit Health Department, and it's extremely important to act swiftly, contact those individuals to minimize the potential spread of the virus. Next slide.
Chrystal, thank you so much again for providing that array of information for us. And in particular, the slides. So audience, you'll have the opportunity to also, we'll soon be posting the slides, which is a tremendous wealth of information. What I'd like to do is pause again. If you have been putting your questions into the Facebook chat, we also hope that you are texting 313-288-2082. Christine, do we have any questions for our health experts?
Yes, we do. Are there jobs available for Detroiters to be contract tracers?
Well, there is potential for possibilities at the moment at the Detroit Health Department. We do have a large portion of our workforce now doing contact tracing, as well as support from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. If individuals are interested in participating or reaching out for further information, they're welcome to call Suzanne Lasnow at the Detroit Health Department. I'm just trying to think of her phone number. I know I've shared it in other presentations, but you could call 876-4000, and they will be able to go ahead and provide you with Suzanne's direct phone number if you would like to go ahead and volunteer.
Chrystal, and could you share with us, you know, as you know, Memorial Day is upon us, and we are used to barbecues and traveling and all the things that we do to celebrate what feels like the start of summer. Could you share with us some pointers on how we do that safely in this moment?
Most definitely, as mentioned by Dr. Fuller and others, now is not a time to relax. We want to make sure that all the precautions that we've been taking, we still continue to take. I understand the governor has now allowed us to go ahead and increase our small parties up to 10 individuals. We want to make sure that we're able to go ahead and enjoy the weather, enjoy our activities with a lot of family and friends. However, keeping it only to 10 people or less. There's all kinds of virtual events in which you can do many different platforms. You can get a little bit creative, possibly go ahead and do some gardening, have a drive-in movie in your backyard, or going ahead and just going for a beautiful walk in your neighborhood park. Now is not the time that individuals should be getting together for large family reunions or playing close contact sports like basketball. We've worked really, really hard in Detroit and across Michigan to lower the number of cases continually rising. We're now at a place where we're comfortable to release some of the restrictions that we've been dealing with, and we really should appreciate it and get a little creative with some of the options. But we don't want to go ahead and go back to where we were a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, we've lost over 1,280 people in just our community. And it could quickly go ahead and rise up again if we do start to relax those restrictions too quickly.
Thank you, Chrystal. And we have one more question. The protocols for Dr. Fuller's mom's funeral prompts this question. In addition to the information on the CDC site, has the Detroit Health Department offered guidance for churches in Detroit as they plan reopening for services?
Yes, at the Detroit Health Department, we've been working very closely with many partners in our community. We do have back to work guidance as well as related to schools, daycares, day camps, faith-based organizations. We will be able to have that information where you would be able to find that on our Detroit Department of Health's website. It's detroitmi.gov/health. And you'll be able to go ahead and have some guidelines on different precautions, temperature screening, social distancing, spacing. There's linkages there for printing posters and signage for social distancing, and how to go ahead and ease into our reintegration of society and getting back together with groups.
Chrystal, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I just simply wanted to say that we're in North Carolina, so you have to know your state rules. You're in Michigan, obviously, where I live. But what is legal also is not always wise. So you have to use your good common sense and decide what to do so that we don't just throw away all the work we've done to get to this point. So we just ask everybody to think about what they're doing and think about how to best do that to remain safe so we can progress forward.
Dr. Fuller and Chrystal, thank you so much. And Dr. Fuller, we're so sorry for your loss, but thank you for sharing it. I know that it's probably very personal and difficult. So thank you. Thank you so
You're
much,
welcome.
both of you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Jametta?
Yes, and thank you both for speaking to it. And I would just kind of do a ditto back to in the beginning of the program. I talked about over 52,000 people have contracted the illness and have been sick, and that and over 5,000 have died. So sometimes when we use words like cases, etc., people forget we're talking about people. So it's so important to our community, as you've said. Let us stay safe, let us be vigilant, because people's lives are at stake in this process. So as we think about the pandemic and how we weather this change and this uncertainty, certainly we have to be thinking about our spirit and our body's ability to do that. So we're so delighted again to bring back Kimberly Boyd, who is with Spirit Field Yoga and Wellness, to hopefully give us some moves to precisely help us think about and align our bodies to be better able to handle the challenge of this time. Kimberly.
Good afternoon, everybody. If you can hear and see me, can you give me a wave or a thumbs up? Beautiful. All right. So I am thinking about all of what has been said, and I'm so glad we have yoga, because yoga can help us practice things like, being calm by using the breath, or being flexible and strong, even being patient. So what we're going to do right now is use the inspiration of a tree. I'm going to go back and have a seat in a chair behind me so you can see what to do. All right, so now give me a wave again if you can see me. All right, so now rubbing your hands together. Everybody take a nice easy breath in through your nose and blow it into your hands. Let your hands reach out in front of you, and then bring one hand to your chest and the other hand to your belly, and plant your feet right strong on the ground, just like the roots of a tree, and breathe in and feel your belly expand, and then breathe out and feel it soften. Let's try that again, but add some arms. Breathe in, reaching out in front of you, and breathe out. Bring your hands back. One more time, breathing in, reaching out your arms like the branches of a tree. Now we're gonna leave them there and do a calming breath I like to call twisted branches, all right? So everybody give me 2 thumbs up. If you give me 2 thumbs up, I know that your arms are in the right position. Excellent. All right, so now you're gonna cross at the wrist. You should still have 2 thumbs up. There you go. Now you're gonna turn your thumbs out to the side. Breathe in, breathe out. Now you're gonna open your arms and your fingers. Breathe in, breathe out. You're gonna turn your palms toward each other. Remember, this is called twisted branches, so you might feel a little twisted, but you're holding hands with yourself. Breathe in, breathe out, and now bring your arms down toward the ground and bring your hands up to the center of your body and rest your head right there on your hands. And from here, breathe in and blow out. Breathe in and blow out. One more time, breathe in and blow out. Now, if you let go of your hands and they're not still twisted, that's okay, but just bring them down and release and let it go, because we can use our breath to shake that out. Sometimes things happen that make us a little frustrated, but all we have to do is take a breath in and blow it out and blow the frustration away. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up right where you are, and I'm going to leave the chair right where I can reach it, and we're going to practice creating a tree. So mostly, if anybody doesn't know, but one yoga pose, you know, tree pose, right? So put your feet flat on the ground, make sure they're nice and planted like strong roots. All right, the next thing you're going to do is breathe in and breathe out. But this time, let's make our branches a little more fancy. So open as you breathe in, and then bring your branches in, maybe even bend your knees as you breathe out, and then breathe in, open, stretch, and blow out and come back in, and now find another fancy way to stretch your branches out. Can you find a way to make your own twisted branches? Excellent, and blowing it out. And then stand up straight and strong with your feet rooted into the earth. Now, what I'd like to do is try creating a family tree, because families can help us practice patience, but they can also give us support. So I'm going to call out my husband and my son. Come on out, guys. This is Byron, my husband, and my son, Zion. So what we're going to do is practice balancing. All right, so Zion, can you give me a nice strong stance with your arms? Something I can hold on to, right? So I can have some support, right? So now I'm going to try to do something that's maybe a little out there, but when we're in a family, our family supports us in doing some things that might be a little challenging, but they've got me. They're not going to let me go, all right? So you guys, can anybody want to lift up a foot and see if we can balance, right? We're going to have to focus. We're not going to let each other fall. It might get kind of shaky. All right, and 3, 2, 1, we're done. Help me thank my family, everyone. Thanks, guys. So right where you are, just take a nice, easy breath in and let it out. And in and out. And in and out. Thank you.
Well, I imagine that everyone out there, Kimberly, is feeling delighted. And when you said done, I almost couldn't stop. I was like, can we keep this going?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this is all about each one, teach one. All of the information that we are learning from our experts, from each other through this process is our opportunity to share knowledge and empower our community. And so in this same vein of sharing knowledge and empowering particularly parents and those caregivers in our community, we're really pleased to wrap up another program by bringing one of our parent voices. So I'm delighted to welcome Teresa Mitchell, who is with one of our partner organizations. Teresa is an outreach coordinator with Hope Starts Here. Teresa, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jametta, and to the COVID313 team, thank you for having us. I really just want to share what we're doing with Hope Starts Here with our families. and how we're supporting our families. And as mentioned on the previous town halls, we have 21 community outreach specialists that are supporting families across the city of Detroit. And we're doing that by participating in the 6-a-days. And so, not that parents aren't doing 6-a-days, we're just reminding them of how to take the opportunity to do some fun things with them, with their children. I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, and so I make it my business to acknowledge that we're doing the 6-a-day so that my children are actively participating as well. Another something that we're encouraging parents to do is to use these platforms that we have. Use Zoom, use Messenger to allow your children to have play dates with their friends, because we all know that they miss their friends. And so we want to have the opportunity for them to have play dates as well. But just like our children, parents, we have to have play dates. So please make sure that you are taking care of yourself as well. And you're doing Zooms with your family and friends to make sure that you're in the best headspace to be able to support your children. Because we have gone from just being parent to being teacher, lunch lady, seems like the janitor and everything else. All in a matter of months. And so we want to make sure that parents are in the best space as well. So please take time to visit in these virtual platforms with your friends also. The 6-a-days, we are having fun with them. We are creating photos, we're creating videos that can be shared with families on social media, but we also encourage individuals to do the same and make sure that you are using the hashtag HopeBuilds, that's builds with an S. So again, that's HopeBuilds. Please use the hashtag so that we can see what you're doing with your families and how you're engaging and doing the 6-a-days. Because sometimes we don't think we're doing them, but we're absolutely doing them. So I want you to make sure that you're taking the opportunity to share those wonderful experiences with other families and give them some ideas as well. Parents, I want you to, again, don't keep yourself just being the parent. You have to have some time for you. That is so important. It's important to me because I have to absolutely get some time with my friends, with my sisters, and things like that. And so I just wanted to share that with parents, because we're talking about our children, but we have to make sure that we're well, because when we thrive, our children thrive. And so in this trying time, we want to make sure that parents are equipped and well prepared so that their children can do the same.
Teresa, thank you so very much. And we're all looking forward. So please get to us that 6-a-days, because we know how awesome those are, and we'll make sure that our community sees those. So at this point, this is enough of our wonderful experts. And Christine, would you close us out from now, our 9th COVID Town Hall?
Thank you, Jametta. I sure will. So we're at about 1:58. And we want to thank all of our panelists and all of you that have joined us today. Again, if your question wasn't answered, we'll get you the answer and post them next week on onedetroitpbs.org. We are here every Thursday from 12 to 2 to bring you the most up-to-date information. Next week, we're going to do a deep dive into housing. So we really want to hear from you. What are things that you're most concerned about related to housing? Please put those in the chat or text them to us right now at 313-288-2082. You can also stay up to date with us and get regular updates by putting your email or your phone number in the chat or texting it to us. Again, the number is 313-288-2082, and it has become tradition on these town halls that we have a few asks of you. You heard a lot about this. earlier, there is time to fill out the census, and we need to fill out the census. We all need to be counted. It should take most people about 10 minutes, and it will ensure that we have funds for education, healthcare, food, and emergency services for the next 10 years. And we're at 50% right now so we can use all the money that we can. So please make sure that your family is counted. Encourage your friends and family by participating in our sidewalk challenge. Hashtag we all count. We also want to hear what other topics are coming up for you that are important to you and your family, so that as we plan these town halls, we're making sure that we're bringing you the information that you need. Please drop those topics into the chat now, or text them to us at 313-288-2082. We are posting the survey for the last time in the chat right now. If you fill that out, you'll be entered into a raffle to win a $25 gift card. Also today, one of our partners, the Detroit Parent Network, is convening 2 of their online presentations. Grab your juice, water, or coffee and join. The topic this week is teaching. Learn how it's an opportunity to learn how you can boost your child's language and literacy from 4 to 5. It's on Zoom, so check out DPN, Detroit Parent Network, at their Facebook page. And there is also the to Mommy support group this evening at 6 p.m. There's a Zoom link here, but you all can't see it, so we're gonna drop it into the chat. So please join those groups. And then our final reminder is that tomorrow we have another COVID313 Town Hall about immigration. It's from 1:30 to 3 on DPTV's Facebook. And we want to remind everyone, please be safe as we head into Memorial Day weekend. This should be a weekend where we celebrate and enjoy what looks like is going to be an awesome weekend of weather, and we enjoy each other and our families. But please remember to observe social distancing, wear your masks, and have a good time. This won't last forever, so just please, this Memorial Day, be safe. And this town hall is truly a group effort. And so before we go, we want all of our partners to turn on their videos. Thank you. And we want to remind everybody, stay healthy, stay powerful, and stay strong. Cindy?
Manténganse saludables, manténganse fuertes y manténganse seguros.
Said?
كن آمنا، ابقى ثابتا ومتينا وابقى قويا. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Stay healthy, stay blessed.